And next, please welcome Bernie Schimbke talking about his work, Tsunami on Paper.
Hi, I'm Bernie Schimbke. This series of paintings have been fairly recent, but I've been working on watercolor since my college days. And this particular piece you've seen on the postcards and other information. But it actually began with this particular piece, which is reminiscent of Rothko, which I've always been influenced by. And so I started there, but then I began to realize I wanted more color, I wanted image, and consequently I began to go in further directions. The next piece is, well, it's of what we are living with as far as the fires. And this particular piece is called Engulfed. Again, I've used the technique of watercolor to let things fade. And the whole series is called Tsunami on Paper, which is, I flow a lot of water onto the paper and then begin to work back until I can fade the background into it. I can start going from bottom up, and it gives an overall impression of intensity, which I've always enjoyed with Rothko's paintings, but I actually needed to include my images. And so as I worked on these, and you go through a number of failures till you get to where you want to be, based on the fact that the water really controls the image in a way, and you sort of push it and knead it one way or another. One of the other pieces on this other wall, one of my more recent pieces, called Aurora Borealis. It's a matter of getting the image and then letting it sort of function the way it's going to, and knowing exactly sort of at what point you can actually begin to add other elements into it. The sky certainly was the big tsunami of water, which was separate from the tsunami of the actual Aurora Borealis. And then there's a certain point you have to begin to understand how the water begins to dry, and you only have so many minutes. This next piece, which is called Flare Up, is based on obviously a more abstract impression, but again, you can see the edges of the flow of water. You touch it, and it may just completely bleed. It is like it is in the upper right-hand corner, but at the same time, you have to sort of control it as best you can. But again, this was another piece that needed direction, but at the same time, you begin to see a different image as you produce a piece. All of these pieces are suspended in shadow boxes, because one of the overriding aspects for myself is that you see the images with the black borders, and then you see the white paper. So for me, it's like full disclosure. Here's the image, and here's the paper that it's on, and then it's all floating in the charcoal paper, which is charcoal colored. And then I actually build all the frames as you go. This particular piece was a sort of departure based on the base of the area at the bottom, approaching a storm, and you're using different techniques here, like the clouds really are daubing the color back out of the sky to allow it to have that that almost foreboding look. And then of course the mountain ranges continue to fade to the background. And that's two techniques right there. And then the technique of the more abstract water flowing with what would we call them? You know, just reeds. Those are all different techniques. So as I've worked with watercolor, I realize that I can employ different techniques to get certain impressions. Now this particular piece, which is called Embers, it allowed me to, let's say, include the exploding trees at a certain point. Was I able to achieve that? But there's a certain time that you can do it, and if you do it too soon, it just fades out. So again, it's technique, and again, it's the whole piece is basically flooded with water, and then I work sort of in reverse in a way, and I either expand the borders to come in further, but what I wanted to do was get the embers of the burning trees. This piece is called Summer Storm, and you can see at the skyline that sort of the cloudburst coming out, and then again the actual sky again was daubed and allowed to sort of break loose and sort of form these clouds. And of course it was on this field, which sort of reminded me of Van Gogh, some of his later pieces. So the overall impression of these pieces are based on ideas that I had and wanted to work on, but once again, it's always about working with what the medium will allow you to do. And many times the pieces that I work on will go so far, and then all of a sudden it's moving in a different direction, and I have to be able to change the idea, the thought, and go from there. So that's basically my work. Thanks a lot. I hope you enjoy the show. Take care.